whatever.
Yeah, can you just like fix your collar a bit? Yeah.
With my old hands? Okay, thank you. For sure.
Oh.
The logo.
Okay.
I am the Salvation Army. I am doing the most good.
I am doing the most good. I am hope. I am compassion.
Soy fortaleza, soy la fe.
I am doing the most good. I serve a community.
带着激情，带着力量，带着信心。
저는 용사들과 또 희생자들을 섬기려고 합니다. 저는 만왕의 왕 하나님을 섬기려고 합니다.
Sono un umile amministratore della generosità di altre persone. Sono un grato portatore della gentilezza altrui. Prendo questa responsabilità seriamente. Mi sento benedetta. Sono una benedizione.
I am doing the most good. I feed empty stomachs and hungry souls. I rebuild homes and shattered lives. I am a willing listener for a veteran with stories to tell.
I am a bottled water and encouraging smile for a weary firefighter. I am an answered prayer, a silver lining, and a second chance.
I am doing the most good. I am a humble steward of other people's generosity. I'm a grateful courier of a stranger's kindness. I am the faithful executor of others' goodwill. I take my responsibility seriously. I am blessed. I am a blessing. I am the Salvation Army. I am doing the most good.
Good afternoon, everybody. I am Major Darren, Norton, Divisional Commander for the Salvation Army. And I'm so thrilled and so happy to welcome you to the 17th Annual Holiday Luncheon. We are so thrilled to be able to present this to you on a virtual platform this year. And during the program, we're going to recognize Kathy and Pitch Johnson for their philanthropic efforts. And then Commissioner Doug Riley, the Territorial Commander of the USA Western Territory for the Salvation Army, will be joining me to make a very special presentation to this year's honoree, someone you know very well, Mayor Willie Brown. I'm standing here on a street in San Francisco. This is Montgomery. I'm in between Pacific and Jackson Streets. And I'm here because this is a very, very special location, very historic location for the Salvation Army. For behind me is a plaque that says that it is at this location that the Salvation Army began its work in San Francisco. It is here where Major Wells came with the mission of a heart to God and a hand to man, reaching out to those who are most neediest, providing meals, providing shelter, providing hope to people in need. The other thing we're excited to show you during this luncheon is the work that we have done during these past 6 months as the pandemic has hit us. The Salvation Army pivoted quickly back at the end of March, and we took to the streets because we won't allow people to come into our buildings. And we were able to provide food, meals to people where they are. We worked with the city. And since then, we have been providing meals to homeless individuals living in tent encampments throughout the city. We've been going to safe sleeping sites and providing breakfast, lunch, and dinner to people in need. In May, we did 3,000 food boxes in half a day in the drive-through to help people in need. We have provided over 200,000 meals. Over 500 volunteers have helped us with this effort. And we have impacted the lives of literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of homeless individuals, keeping them sheltered in place during these days. That's a lot of people. But I'll never forget Stephanie and Patrick. Stephanie and Patrick are a married couple, homeless couple living in a tent. And on this particular day, I was driving with 2 volunteers, pulling up to their tent encampment with a few other tents to provide lunch meals to them. As we pulled up, the tent on the end started to smoke and quickly caught on fire. We got out of our vehicle. I called 911 to get the fire department down very quickly. We shouted. Unfortunately, no one was in any of those tents. The fire department came and put out the fire. It destroyed a couple of tents. We went on our way and we delivered those meals, and we went back at the very end to just see how things were and to see if the people that occupied those tents were there. And there I met Stephanie and Patrick, just heartbroken that every balloon that they had gone up in flames in that terrible fire. Well, we gave them some food, and I said, look, we'll be back soon. Don't go anywhere. I took my volunteers. We rushed to Target. We grabbed sleeping bags, pillows, blankets, an airbed, and we took it back to them, and we provided them with hope on that tragic day for them. We made a great impact with Stephanie and Patrick. I was able to pray with them and encourage them in that time. And it's stories like that, the lives of real people that we have impacted throughout these past 6 months. And in a moment, you're going to see a video that will show you a compilation of all of our efforts that we would not have been able to do if it were not for the generosity of people just like you and others in our community. Before I hand you over to watch that video, it is traditional in Salvation Army programs that we offer an invocation. And so I'd like to do that right now by offering a prayer written by someone whom our city is named after. I'm talking about St. Francis of Assisi. His famous prayer is so apt for this day, for this nation, for this world at this time. And so I share it with you as we begin our program together. The prayer of St. Francis: Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. O Master, grant that I might not seek to be consoled, but to console. Not to be understood, but to understand. Not to be loved, but to love. For it is in giving that we receive, it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. Amen.
Right behind me is what is called a safe sleeping site, and these are places that have been erected by the city to help with the overflow of homeless that have been put out onto the streets because we've had closures. The Salvation Army has jumped to the call, and we're providing meals to these locations. We're feeding 100 breakfasts, 100 lunches, 100 dinners every day throughout this time to make sure that these folks have what they need.
Continue to do on Fridays is our grocery program coming through the building here, our social service program. And we help about 200 to 75 to 300 individuals on Fridays. And that was going on today as well. It's a big operation with our staff and volunteers. And it usually lasts between like 6 in the morning when we all get here, and it ends about 9:30. So it's a big operation. Couldn't be done without the volunteers in our community.
I meet with people 3 times a week, same people every time they know I'm coming, and I'm building up some actual personal relationships that hopefully will bring some hope and maybe pique their interest in what makes me so joyful all the time, which is definitely God. You know, my relationship with Jesus is what holds it all together.
I have to put my fears and my anxiety on God and just trust that this is work that is important, and that everyone out here is somebody's mom, somebody's brother, but also they're loved by God. They're created in His image. And so to me, that is something God's been showing me through this whole process.
One of the programs that we have here at the Kroc Center is our after-school program, is our virtual programming, and how we could continue to reach out to the children that were attending here. We didn't want to lose contact with them, so we trained up our staff to learn how to do some online activities, programs like reading, math, different things like that.
Since early April through the end of October, the Salvation Army has served over 200,000 meals to individuals experiencing homelessness, living on the streets of San Francisco in tent encampments. Every day, the Salvation Army staff and volunteers have been hitting the streets, going to people where they are, keeping them safe in place, and providing meal, breakfast, lunch, and dinners, and helping to provide hope and support and love and care during these very uncertain and challenging days. We've been able to do that because we've had an army of volunteers. Over 500 different volunteers have come out and helped us over the last 6 months, and to them we're extremely grateful.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the 17th Annual Holiday Luncheon for the Salvation Army of San Francisco. This one being a very historic one, and that it's our first virtual luncheon ever. So throughout this period of time, I know it's been challenging for a lot of people, and what I'm most proud to say is that the staff and leadership of Salvation Army has been there for our community throughout this entire period of time. And in fact, I want to start off by thanking them for everything they've done for our community during this challenging time, as we mentioned. This afternoon, we will be honoring Kathy and Pitch Johnson with a Lifetime Achievement Award. We'll also be honoring the official honoree of our event, Mayor Willie Brown, who needs no introduction. So I'd like to just first introduce Kathy and Pitch Johnson. You may know them. They've been longtime supporters of the Salvation Army and longtime pillars of philanthropy within our community, not just here locally, but nationally as well. I also want to thank all of you for being here today. That includes people who've been longtime supporters and those of you who are new to the Salvation Army, and this might be your first introduction to the organization. Every year, as I introduce the holiday luncheon and introduce the advisory board, I'm asked why I got involved with the Salvation Army. I got involved years ago through a fellow board member, much the way many people get involved with nonprofits. But as a veteran, I was particularly touched by the work the Salvation Army does on behalf of the veteran community in San Francisco. Last statistic I saw was upwards of 18% of the homeless population in San Francisco are veterans. And what I saw firsthand what the Salvation Army was doing, both directly through VA-funded programs and substance abuse and alcohol and drug rehabilitation programs and workforce development programs, not to mention the countless people the Salvation Army touches on a daily basis without even ever asking the question or knowing that they're touching veterans' lives. I knew I wanted to get involved at that point. I knew I also wanted to get involved with an organization that could scale, that could amass massive amounts of resources and people and talent. And that's why they call it the Army after all. What I wanted to do also today was give special thanks to some of our supporters for this event today. At the $100,000 sponsorship level, I'd like to particularly honor and recognize Susan and Bill Oberndorf. At the $50,000 level, Dr. William Clausen and his family, Grace and Steve Voorhees, and then Mrs. Dee Dee Wilsey. So thank you all for your support. We'd also like to mention two corporate sponsors in particular, Dodge & Cox and Sutter Health, both of whom gave $10,000 sponsorships. And we're blessed to have many sponsors at the $10,000 level, which you'll see on the screen before you. We'd also like to thank our honorary committee, whose names you'll see on the screen. And last but not least, as I mentioned, we can't be in person together to celebrate this luncheon and the Salvation Army and the work the Salvation Army does in our community. But in lieu of that, we've had an organizing committee who put together an outstanding program for you to enjoy today. And with that, I want to announce and ask for your applause virtually for our co-chairs of that organizing committee, Betsy Strong, Allison Carlson, and Kristen Huter. They've done a tremendous job putting together this program, and we hope you all enjoy it. Last but not least, I'd like to recognize my fellow advisory board members. I'm sure you're out there and watching right now, and turn it over to Kristen for the rest of today's program.
Hi there, I'm Kristen Huter, a longtime member of the Salvation Army Advisory Committee Board, and we're here with enjoying the joy and pleasure of honoring Pitch and Kathy Johnson for their timeless efforts, their time, their generosity, and their commitment to all things charitable in the Greater Bay Area. We love them to pieces, and it's an honor for me to hand Pitch and Kathy this Lifetime Achievement Award for all that they've done and continue to do. God bless you both. Congratulations.
Thank you, Kristen.
Congratulations. Woo!
It's a pleasure. It's not a surprise since you told me ahead, but a very pleasant experience to get this award. I've appreciated the Salvation Army and what it's done for many years. Even back when I was a kid, I remember the Salvation Army collecting their buckets, collecting money to give to others. What I didn't know then, and I do know now, is how much they do for others with that money they put in the buckets, or like as it in the buckets. We have felt quite pleased to go to the events and to support the event that you have every year. It's been, we went to one, it was a great pleasure. Charlotte and George Schultz were being honored, and I've been supported in a minor way a number of those events. So I think that we're pleased to get this because while we have been not great donors, we have been donors to many things and over a long time, and we were giving back to the community that made us earn a good living. So thank you very much. I'm so pleased to get this, and we'll look forward. Ooh, I'm getting a smooch. That's dangerous to show on TV.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's a lovely day.
Wonderful.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Theo Ellington, Director of Homeless Initiatives and Community Development.
I'm Major David Pierce, the Executive Director at the excellent Harbor Light Center here in the Soma part of San Francisco.
Excellent. I like to say the flagship. This is the flagship program.
We are the flagship program. You're absolutely right.
All right. Tell us what we're doing here and what type of programming happens.
So the Harbor Light Center has space for 236 family or persons. So we have a homeless shelter that has 150 people and then 136 people looking for help with substance abuse problems. Our programs are designed to help people get into housing or to overcome the effects of drugs and alcohol.
And right now we are standing in the heart of what?
The courtyard of the Harbor Light Center. This is one of the most beautiful places here in San Francisco is our courtyard.
So this year's theme for the Holiday Luncheon is centered around homelessness. And it's very fitting that we're here because the way out, the core of its program evolves around everything that happens here at the Harbor Light program.
Absolutely. That was the wise decision, was to make everything at the Harbor Light Center.
That's right. We're looking to ensure that folks who are recovering from alcohol and drug abuse have a place to stay, have a solid foundation, and that work can't happen without our partners. I was fortunate enough to sit down with Sarah Crevens from Sutter Health. She's the president and CEO, and we're getting ready to show a video of an interview in Sacramento with Sarah Crevens from Sutter Health. First off, Sarah, I want to say thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to come speak with you about all the great things you're doing. I specifically want to highlight all the work that Sutter Health has done and provided for the Salvation Army here in Northern California, Modesto in particular. You guys are strong partners of ours.
Yeah, and you have been a wonderful partner. We couldn't do the good things we're doing without the Salvation Army.
Absolutely. And you play, I mean, you wear many hats.
Yes.
Obviously, like I say, I was doing something earlier and I said, I've got my main gig and then I've got my other sort of hats that I wear. You sit on the Bay Area Council.
Yes.
And you chair co-chair the homeless subcommittee.
Yes.
And a lot of the work that we're doing with the Salvation Army in San Francisco and in the Bay Area for that matter, we're looking to really reinvent ourselves.
Yeah.
I like to say we're showing up in a different way, and reintroducing ourselves to the social service sector in San Francisco. We are getting ready to embark on our largest expansion since arriving in San Francisco in 1883.
Wow. Congratulations.
Yeah. Well, we're not there yet. We're getting there, but super exciting. But one of the things in terms of policy that keeps coming up, again, this is looking at the regional perspective, is our housing system. Yeah. It's broken.
Yes.
And many of these challenges we see in everyday people. Since the pandemic happened, we are seeing folks from all walks of life at our front door, whether it be food, homeless services, you name it, folks are at our front door. And we think that this will get worse before it gets better.
Yeah.
But obviously we remain hopeful. But if we look specifically at our housing system and public policy, how do you think we can make a positive difference and sort of shift these dynamics? Is it policy change? Is it better advocacy, public-private partnerships? What do you see with your work at the Bay Area Council?
Yeah, so I would say it's probably yes, yes, and yes, right? And you are so much more of an expert in this than I am. But as I look at it, the homeless population is not a homogeneous population. Mm-hmm. And there's not going to be one single answer.
Correct.
The person who loses their apartment because they just lost their job and they've missed, they don't have rent, has a different set of issues than the child who emancipates out of foster care and has no adult to support them and no sense of how to actually even manage on their own. Mm-hmm. That's a different issue maybe than the returning veteran has, and maybe a different issue than somebody who's chronically homeless because of other kinds of either economic, social, or mental health conditions. And so it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. And we need to be very thoughtful, and we need to not sort of stigmatize homelessness and treat it as if every homeless person is the same, and really think about what are the programs and services that work for each population, each person.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I think, 2 points that you've mentioned, which is almost a natural segue into my next question, this idea of chronic homelessness. That I think is solvable, right? There are people who, no one should be on the streets.
Right.
Chronically, right? No one should be on the streets to the point where it's drastically changing their lives. There are several approaches that we often are presented with in terms of how we address homelessness. And we've seen this play itself out in San Francisco. You mentioned there not being a one-size-fits-all approach, which I agree with 100%. But we've seen things like housing first, rapid rehousing, harm reduction methods. Particularly now, at a time where, I hate to sound so cynical, but where I think we'll see the numbers get worse before they get better.
Yes. Realistic.
Realistic, yes. Are there different focus areas, mental health treatment, substance abuse treatment that need attention just as much as housing?
Yeah, well, not just for the population that's either homeless or at risk of being homeless, but the issues around mental health and access to mental health services are a problem throughout our country and have been a problem in California before the pandemic. What's happened during the pandemic has been that the number of people who report feeling anxious and depressed has risen dramatically. People are socially isolated, they're worried economically, they're scared, they're not seeing their family or friends. If they're an essential worker, they may feel that they're living in a very different universe than people who are either not working or working at home. And so I think mental health care is important for everyone. I think it's particularly important to wrap services around individuals who are either homeless or at risk of being homeless. If we can prevent somebody from becoming homeless, that's the very best thing. And then rapid rehousing, as you mentioned, the next best thing. And then thinking about, well, what's after that? What's after that? But we have to support people's mental health. And that's something that's important for all of us, right? It's important if you're employed. It's important if you're elderly. It's important if you're homeless. but it's difficult for anyone to get access to mental health services. There's a real scarcity in many communities. And of course, it's particularly hard, if you have all of the challenges that come with being homeless.
Absolutely. I think you hit on a couple different things that this new initiative called The Way Out,
yes,
we're looking to implement. Obviously, the housing piece is important. We are really introducing this new model of service. So right now, the way the system works is you get assigned to a shelter or a navigation center in San Francisco, or a 6 to 9 month sort of treatment program. And you complete that program, you may get assigned to an SRO or housing, and then the support that you need, these mental health services that we're talking about, the substance abuse services that we're talking about, you kind of fall flat after that.
Right.
And we call it a wash machine because you fall back into homelessness, oftentimes a deeper state of homelessness. So we want to really disrupt that cycle. And the way we're doing that is through a simple model that we're calling Live, Work, Love. Live being the housing aspect, where we want to take that 6 month period that I mentioned earlier, and we want to expand that up to 3 years.
Yeah.
So folks really have some stability. We want to provide wraparound services. So you are getting the elements of harm reduction that includes sort of peer-to-peer mentoring, that includes a certain level of accountability, that includes sobriety. And then the last piece is the work piece. There is no way in this economy that we can't not allow ourselves to not only put people in housing, not only give them services, but prepare them to get back into the workforce. Because, I mean, it's economics at the end of the day.
That's wonderful. I mean, that would really be an amazing gift to those individuals and to the whole community if you were able to get the support to do that extension. Because 6 months for many people, that's just not enough. If you could support them for 2 years, that would be miraculous.
Absolutely.
That'd be wonderful.
And that's exactly what we're trying to do. And we think, we've got a property stronghold. We're the largest provider of addiction treatment in America. So we've got the tools, and it's about finding obviously partners like Sutter Health to help sort of drive that mission home and really bring people back to living a life of sobriety. Jobs, the economy.
Yes.
One of the biggest uncertainties here are finances. People need to earn a living. When it comes to the healthcare industry, can you talk just a little bit about just the future of work? What jobs are available tomorrow, and how do we prepare, folks like the Salvation Army, how do we get people ready for jobs in the healthcare industry?
Yeah, it's a really great question. I think the future of work broadly, as well as in healthcare. And, right now we are in a period of time when many healthcare providers are seeing fewer patients in certain kinds of settings because patients may be reluctant to seek care. Although I always encourage people, we will keep you safe. Our staff are well trained. They have personal protective equipment. We'll keep you safe. If you have a healthcare need, see your doctor, right? See your doctor, see your nurse practitioner, see your dentist, see whatever it is you need to seek. And we also learn to provide care in different ways through video visits, telephonic visits, artificial intelligence. But there are, in some parts of healthcare, just like there are in many parts of the economy in California, there is a decrease in volume, right? People are staying home, they're doing less. But I'm kind of think of myself as a realistic optimist. This is a wonderful state. People will return to work. People will return to being able to be out and to go and enjoy all the wonderful things the Bay Area has to offer, and they'll return to seeking healthcare when they need healthcare. And I believe over time, if you look at the demographics of what's happening, there are going to be good jobs in healthcare, just like there are today, and good entry-level jobs. And even today, with everything that's happening economically, we're continuing to hire registered nurses, we're continuing to hire technical staff, and there are across the board sort of healthcare field, there are a lot of jobs in healthcare that work for entry-level workers. Or, another thing that is so wonderful is, the Salvation Army and Sutter and some of the community colleges all focus on what can we do to get people ready for jobs that don't need a degree.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so there are some jobs that they may need some training, but they don't need somebody to go to a 2-year college or a 4-year college to be able to do that job. And home health aides, people who work in board and care facilities, those kinds of entry-level jobs, they require some training, but it's not, it's not forever. And I think people who have love in their hearts and who care for their who really care about other people, healthcare is a wonderful field. And I do think that there are opportunities, but like everything right now in the economy, things are tough.
Mm-hmm.
Things are challenging, and it's really important that people who have the ability, I think, to give and to help that. Philanthropy's made a big difference in what we can do.
Mm-hmm.
I know philanthropy makes a big difference in what you can do, and I think some of this is going to be about people lending a helping hand to one another to get through it.
So I want to jump back to healthcare and homelessness and really draw just a physical connection that I think often goes unnoticed, and that's the emergency room.
Yeah.
So for many medical institutions, they see a spike in unhoused individuals inside their emergency rooms for whatever reason, right? There is folks going in for routine care. There are folks using the emergency room for acute care, for follow-up appointments, and even for extreme cases. How has Sutter Health responded to this phenomenon, and who is ultimately responsible for caring for our unhoused and uninsured residents?
Yeah, so it's really a great question. And I would tell you, in many communities, our partnership with the Salvation Army has been part of the solution. And just like we talked earlier, that there are lots of different reasons that people become homeless, there are lots of different reasons that people who are homeless end up in the emergency room. And so you have to really understand that. It may be that it's the only place they feel welcome.
Mm-hmm.
So, you can fund all kinds of alternate treatment sites and put a lot of money into it. But if when the person goes there, they don't feel welcome and they don't feel seen and they don't feel respected. We did an interesting survey in the East Bay, actually, about why were people who had access to certain outpatient clinic sites showing up at the emergency room. And we assumed that maybe it was because they didn't have transportation or didn't know what the hours were. But sometimes it was because they felt that they were respected more,
mm-hmm.
or that they got more of all of the things they needed. They could leave with a starter dose of antibiotics if they had an infection. They leave with clothes if they don't have clothes. They are fed if they need to be fed. So sometimes it's that. Sometimes it's they don't know where else to go. Sometimes it's because other agencies will bring them there.
Mm-hmm.
They'll think this is a good and safe place. And I'm proud that we can be that safe haven, but we're not always the best place. And that's why I love our partnerships with the Salvation Army, with some of our federally qualified health centers, to say, it's great we can take care of you in this moment, but how do we have a warm and, loving, using your word, kind of wraparound set of services that keeps you safe?
Mm-hmm.
Right? That keeps you well. How do we set up shelters, as we did together, that are willing to take an individual, a person who also has medical needs, right? Because in a lot of shelters, if you have certain medical needs, they feel they can't safely care for you. So then where does that put that homeless individual? So how do we have shelters that feel comfortable and confident that they can take care of those individuals? How do we then help connect those individuals to ongoing care
mm-hmm.
for their medical system? That's why the program you described, and taking it from 6 months to 2 years, part of that wraparound set of services is connecting people with the healthcare system in a way that works for them, I think.
Absolutely. And I think, we deal with a lot of folks living on the margins,
Yes,
and people who have slipped through the cracks. And the term in the sort of social services spaces, we use this continuum of care. So, much like your street nurses program where you're getting folks literally on the street level, we think that we can provide services from the streets to permanent supportive housing, all under the umbrella of Salvation Army umbrella.
Yeah, it's a wonderful vision.
We are trekking forward, and that's what leaves me hopeful is that we have a dedicated group of people who are called to do this work. We have a dedicated group of people who support this sort of system and program that we're building. And 2020 has been a whirlwind, as we all know, socially, emotionally, economically. What are some things that you are seeing that just keep you hopeful, that helps you get through, this crazy time?
I would say it's really a couple of things. So inside of Sutter Health, it's just how incredibly dedicated our people are. And, they just showed up and were there at the very beginning of this pandemic when no one had any, we don't know everything we need to know today about COVID-19, but we knew a whole lot less, right, 6 months ago. And yet we had staff who typically work in an outpatient setting or an ambulatory surgery setting volunteer to be retrained. Maybe they hadn't worked inside of a hospital for a long time, but they said, I'm willing to do this if you need me. And, I'll be retrained to do that. We had people who normally work in support services volunteer to go check temperatures at the door and to screen so that patients could safely come in to get care. We had people really looking after each other. We had a very severe outbreak at one point in the Central Valley in Modesto, very hard-hit community. And one of our facilities that had early on been very hard hit in the pandemic, the staff collected money for chocolate and shoe inserts and, just little things. And they drove them from the Bay Area up to Modesto and gave them to the staff up in Modesto. So internally to Sutter Health, those things give me help. In the broader community, I see a lot of people who in a time when they could just be looking inward or looking outward, and they're saying, how can I help? Whether it's a business leader who's taking the time to check on their employees and be sure they're okay, or somebody who's volunteered to help in the community, or a generous donor who says, I haven't lost my job, and so I'm willing to share it with somebody who has. Those things give me hope. But I do think we need durable public policy solutions as well.
Greetings, everybody. We are here at the Golden State Divisional Headquarters. This is where we provide services and support to the Salvation Army units, programs, and services throughout the 15 counties that make up Central California. We're here today because the Salvation Army is going to present a special honor to one individual. If you ask me to sum up the Salvation Army in one word that would epitomize the mission and the ministry of the Salvation Army, I would suggest to you that one word would be others, the word others. And it's in that spirit that the Salvation Army each year recognizes one individual or organization to be our Holiday Luncheon honoree. This year's honoree is no stranger to you, having spent over 30 years in the California State Assembly and 2 terms as mayor of San Francisco. We are so pleased and delighted this year to honor Mayor Willie Brown. I'm also very excited to introduce you to Commissioner Doug Riley. Commissioner is the territorial commander for the USA Western Territory, which covers the 13 Western states. Commissioner is here today to present the award to Mayor Brown. Commissioner, thank you so much for being with us on this occasion.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to come and to share with you on this special occasion with the mayor. Before I do, I'd like a few comments just to say a word of thank you. These past several months have been a challenge to each and every one of us, But I want to say thank you to the Salvation Army here in San Francisco for the efforts that they have made far and beyond what they normally would, serving over 200,000 meals in the last several months to those in need, those who are suffering from this pandemic. So I want to say thank you. Thank you for those services. And to each of you who have reached out with a food meal or box of food to help others. Secondly, I want to share my support for your initiative called The Way Out to help and expand homeless services to those in need in this community, in this city, the city of San Francisco. It will benefit the homeless for years to come, perhaps decades. And we are grateful. You know my full support for your initiative. And lastly, I would say to each of you, the donors, the supporters, the volunteers, the Salvation Army officers, and everybody who's involved in Christmas efforts, this year will be unprecedented need. We're seeing 10 times the amount of people coming to us than we have. And the early indications is that we will need your help. And so I just ask you for your help. We're calling the theme of Christmas this year, Rescue Christmas, appropriately named, appropriately themed, because we can rescue the hope of those who are losing hope. We can rescue hope for those who've lost it, and you can bring that hope to others. So I just want to thank you for your support. I also want to ask you to be engaged and help the Salvation Army to reach those needs here in San Francisco. And now to Mayor Willie Brown. Mayor, I have to tell you, I saw a video of you just recently. You have supported this organization for years. You have been a wonderful support to us, an encouragement to us. But in the recent support, in the video that was shown to me, it was, I think, an event that happened this last summer called Flower Power. And you had a few comments that you shared that took special interest to me, and I'd like to share those with you today. I'm going to ask Major if he would just share those comments with you.
Just like to remind you,
is going to be passed on to those in most need. I've always wanted, however, to be the recipient at some point of one of those ranks that you get in the Salvation Army. I don't know how you earned them. I'm certain that I would never be able to earn them. It would have to be extraordinarily generous in terms of the selection committee. But it seems to me a captain would be appropriate. Congratulations and good luck. Congratulations and good luck.
Mayor Brown, you resemble the Salvation Army officers in the qualities of caring for others, the commitment that you have for others. And I found out that that selection committee is me. And so today, I wanted to just see if we could just, well, let's just say this. You wanted to be an honorary captain. I thought, can't be a captain. You got to be an honorary major. Now, I thought about making you a colonel, but that would put you at a rank above Major Norton. So I thought that's dangerous. But I do want to present to you today a Salvation Army tunic with the honorary trim of major on here for you. I'd like you to try it on. This is just a sample that we're going to get fitted for you. So can we try to slip this on and see how this might look? Oh, there we go. There we go.
Oh,
well,
wow.
Honorary major it is.
Thank you.
You deserve that. Let me share with you just a plaque that I would like to read for you on this occasion, this special occasion. It's to the Honorable Willie Brown. Whereas the Honorable Willie Brown has provided decades of distinguished service to the people of this city, San Francisco, and committed service and care for those that are least and lost in this community. Whereas Mayor Brown is a champion of the Salvation Army annual celebrity bell ringing event that's found every year in Union Square, championed by his dear friend, Charlotte Schultz, a longtime chief of protocol for the city of San Francisco. And whereas Mayor Brown has always had an open door for the Salvation Army, supported this organization, and has always looked for ways to expand the social service to reach the lives of people in this city. And whereas Mayor Brown is recognized by the members of the San Francisco Metro Advisory Board and the Salvation Army's divisional and territorial leadership for his years of selfless service to the Salvation Army. I therefore promote you to the honorary major rank of this organization, the Salvation Army. God bless you. And Mayor, just so you have a resemblance of that and this honorary rank that we have given to you today, we have this rank, this epaulet, which signifies that you are the rank of a major that you can hang on your wall, and you can always refer to it, especially when you're referring to captains or lieutenants. It works well for those.
I am frankly blown away. I did not expect anything of this nature, and you clearly observed my soliciting in that video.
Yes.
Some rank, but I can assure you I could never earn even the rank of captain, and not even close to major. This is really impressive. That's going way up the scale. I love it. I'm impressed, and I'm very pleased, and I'm going to tell the world about it, because there's nothing wrong with letting people know where you really rank among organizations and individuals who've done such marvelous work over the years. I'm always amazed. I do lots of charity events and charity activities. In the case of the Salvation Army, I'm always more motivated because somewhere above 80% of every dollar you solicit and acquire and people donate goes to implement all those services that you are talking about. I love those occasions when Charlotte Schultz and others would have us do the celebrity bell ringing, and then the red kettle in the Union Square in San Francisco. Nothing. A politician gets a chance to really talk to people other than when it's pure politics. The Salvation Army was never politics. And when people would come to that kettle, I could stay there all day, because every 5 or 7 minutes there would be an exchange and a conversation with somebody who really wanted to talk to you, or wanted to say to you something, or wanted to give something, and they usually would be talked into giving more, because they would be told about what the organization was really doing. And in San Francisco, the Salvation Army is invaluable.
Yes.
The multiplicity of programs literally covers, interestingly enough, not what the Army thinks about doing, but what appears to be the need of people, period. And you fashion the program on the basis of the need, not on the basis of some conceptual, advisory operation that comes from within. You literally observe and do your work based on what people need, and you take them where they are. You don't try to convert them or what have you. And I suspect that much of that comes from the religious heritage and the religious principle of this organization. And one of the things that's interesting is that you are never criticized for having the religious element as a cornerstone of what you do. I came to California at 17 years of age from a little town called Mineola. And in those days, there was still separate but equal in America and all those kinds of things. And when I arrived in San Francisco, it was amazing. Instantly, there was absolutely no distinction when I first observed the work of the Salvation Army in San Francisco. There was never an occasion when people appeared to be anything other than assisting people in need, in doing so the way in which the Lord would do his work and did his work, period. And so I'm just, you have no idea with all the awards that I've gotten in my lifetime, most of them not earned, by the way. Somebody gives them to me for political purposes. This one, literally, I say, it's you saying thank you for a job well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thanks again for joining us today. What a great event, and it wouldn't happen without you, so thanks for being a part of it. We want to say congratulations to Pitch and Kathy Johnson for their commitment to philanthropy throughout the Bay Area. What an inspiration. And take a look at Mayor Willie Brown. He went from mayor to major in just one day. And it was so inspiring to hear from Sarah and Theo as they discussed homelessness in the Bay Area. It's a real issue which needs real discussions and real action. And now we're to the reason we're here today, and that's to help us serve others in this community and help us rescue Christmas. And in order to do that, I want to introduce to you longtime San Francisco Chronicle columnist, Chuck Nevius. Chuck?
Thank you, Major Mac. I appreciate it. You know, this time of year, as a rule, I'd be standing in Union Square ringing a bell. No reason, I just like to ring bells. No. Actually, I'd be part of the bell ringing we do every year for the last 17 years to publicize the Salvation Army during Christmas. And we think of these bells and we think of these kettles. It reminds us of Christmas. But it should also remind us of the Salvation Army and what the Army does year in and year out, every day. Some 300,000 people are helped each year by the Salvation Army. And just to give you some perspective, we're at the Ferry Building today, and the reason is that this Red Kettle campaign began at the Ferry Building in 1891. The Salvation Army has been doing good work for a long time. In 36 years at the Chronicle, I had lots of opportunities to write columns about the Salvation Army. And one really stuck in my mind, and that's a program they call Railton Place. It helps several people, veterans, homeless, but the people I was struck by were aged out foster youth. Something I didn't know was that when foster youth reach the age of 18, they're done, they're out. And all too often, tragically, they're on the street. Railton Place gives them a place to live and a place to transition. It's just an example of the good work the Salvation Army does. And that's why I'm asking you, in this difficult time, in this holiday season, to please give generously to the Salvation Army. Help them help others. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Chuck. We appreciate it. And here's your opportunity to give. Get online and type in sanfrancisco.salvationarmy.org. And you will find ways that you can help us in so many different ways. You can help us financially, which we certainly need, but you can find out about the many programs that we offer throughout the city. And I encourage you just to read through some of the encouraging stories that you see there. We need your volunteer support as well. Now, there's another way you can support us, and that is this season, when you pass by one of these kettle stands, don't pass by without giving a donation. You can either put it directly in the kettle, or we've got Apple Pay and Google Pay options, the touchless options. We need your support. Don't pass by without doing that. Help us rescue Christmas this season. I want to thank you again for joining us today. Thank you for your support. Thank you for helping the Salvation Army doing the most good in this city, helping us rescue Christmas. God bless you. Have a great Thanksgiving and a Merry Christmas.